Welcome to See You on the Other Side. I'm your host, Leah, and I have Christine with us, obviously, because she's the co-host.
Don't cut that.
You know, I'm not.
Do not. Don't you dare.
I am already feeling like this is going to be one of the best episodes.
Girl, you take some mushrooms today?
I did not. We have one of my best friends with us today.
Hi.
This is Sarah.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
You've made a few audio appearances.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a brief history, who you are. Well, first off, you're like my best friend. But you are the person who introduced me to mushrooms.
I am.
Like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think, yeah. It was right before COVID. Was it right before COVID?
It was before COVID, but it was like way before COVID, I think.
I think it was the year before COVID, but you didn't actually start getting into it until COVID, I want to say. I don't know.
So how did she introduce that to you?
Yeah, so she was my employee. And she said something about being microdosing, and I was like right now?
Like at work?
At work? You're on mushrooms right now?
At work?
I was like thinking she was going to fuck someone's eyebrows up. So I was a little bit freaked out. And she's all nonchalant, like, yeah.
Yeah, because microdose.
And it took me a while to be like, oh, a microdose. And I think even that word, we still talk about this. That word scares so many people.
It does, yeah. Because I think people don't think about it. Like, if you think about microdose, microscope, like when you look at something under a microscope, it's minuscule. So, like, the microdose that you're taking is, you know, like a drink of alcohol, like a mixed drink is a microdose of alcohol. Like, a mixed drink for most people isn't going to do anything. So, Same with microdose.
I like that.
But it takes a lot of people.
I know. It really throws a lot of people for a fucking loop.
Yeah. Because they hear mushrooms and they're like, hold the fuck on.
Yeah.
I don't want to trip. I want to be able to go to work. I want to be able to drive a car. And I'm like, do you think I'm just out here like throwing my life to the wind? Like, whatever happens, you know?
Do you feel... I kind of felt hesitant when I've known that microdosing is what a microdose is for several years now, but I microdosed LSD several months ago, and doing that had me scared before I did it. 'Cause there's always that fear.
Yeah, there's a little bit of fear there. So funny story, I was actually going to microdose LSD because I was going to do it. I had like a whirlwind weekend of putting my house on the market, buying another house, whatever. So I had to get a lot of shit done. And so I was like, oh, this is a perfect time to microdose some LSD and just be focused like one thing after another, because that's kind of what you explained to me that it does. And I forgot out of all the things that was going on. But that fear wasn't there, because it was kind of the same thing that I thought of with mushrooms. When someone just explained to me, it was someone I trusted, you're not going to feel anything. It affects you, but it doesn't give you a high. I was like, okay, so same thing.
Where most people think like you take it and you're like fucked up all day, like not able to
function. Yeah. Like
One of my
tripping balls
clients just recently started microdosing and said that her mom is like, oh, so you're just gonna do shrooms now? Are you doing shrooms?
I have a client and the same thing happened to her. Her mom found out and she's like, so you're just like fucking doing drugs every day?
Yeah. It's like,
And I think if we just, you know, if they are open to hearing what it actually does, there's a narrative around it that's so skewed. But you started microdosing, kind of.
I did it after my mom's diagnosis. So my mom was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer in August of 2018, and that was, earth shattering, as you can imagine. Like for like a lot of people, my mom we were freakishly linked. Like my mom was just my soul, you know, and my partner in this life. So after that, I was numb for a while. Like, it was really hard to process, but I've always had frustrations and not really been able to, it took me a long time to learn how to manage my emotions. And when that hit, I was so frustrated with just anything in life. I was getting kind of irrationally angry, and I couldn't, and my depression was coming up. I just couldn't function very well.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had gotten into mushrooms, and he'd been telling me about it for so long. He'd been doing, large heroic doses for years, and was telling me about that, and connected me with somebody that got me started microdosing. She was like, because I was thinking about doing a big journey, but she was like, now is not the time. You are entrenched in this, and that for a lot of people is not the time to go deep. You need to kind of feel those trenches and see, search through them before, when you're kind of, you've processed a lot of that and you're kind of on a little bit of the other side.
Yeah.
But still feeling the effects of it, that's when you go deeper.
Yeah.
So she gave me the microdoses, and I started doing that, and it really helped. The example I always give is, I was on the phone with my mom one time. They lived in Seattle at the time, and I walked in the house, and I have a bunch of dogs, had a few then, were just on me, and I had all this stuff in my hands, and I just couldn't, those little things would set me off.
Right.
And instead of where that normally would have been me lashing out at my mom over the phone and yelling at the dogs and throwing my stuff down, I said, Mom, I gotta let you go. I'm gonna call you back in a minute. I don't want to be a bitch. I don't want to be shitty to these dogs. Let me call you back. I was able in that moment of everything coming at me to actually process, which is something I hadn't been able to do for a while before that.
And that's just micros.
That was just micros, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So I want to know more about, so your mom got diagnosed. Mm-hmm. How long until
she died? It was a year and a half.
Okay.
It was the longest and quickest year and a half of my life.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So her diagnosis came a month after, we actually, they found the tumor. Yeah. So her first brain surgery was on my birthday, which was a very surreal thing, because I'm sitting there, waiting for her to get out of surgery with my dad and my brother. And we're just kind of processing this whole day and trying to, laugh each other through it and just get through it. And I'm having all of these, and I told just a few people before I left. I had to tell you because of work and, other things. But I'm getting all these text messages all day that are just happy birthday, have the best day ever. And really celebratory, which was sweet, but it was just
a lot.
It was a crazy day. And so that was her surgery. And then her surgeon was going on vacation for 2 weeks. So we couldn't get her diagnosis for another couple of weeks after her surgery. So I came home to work for a little bit. So I had to make money. And then I flew back out to Seattle. We got her diagnosis, which we all kind of had a feeling of what it was. And it was glioblastoma, which is stage 4, and it's very progressive. There's not a lot of research into it. There's a little more now than there was then. And so we knew it was terminal from the get-go. And everything you read, average lifespan is 2 to 7 years. But for someone of her age, she was in her 60s, it, was going to be probably on the lower end of that. She was incredibly optimistic. She was, and that's what she had to do. She didn't ignore it. She knew it was there, but she also just looked on the positive. She was like, I'm looking 20 years out, and we just went with it. We were like, great. If that's what you need to do, cool. But, knowing that that's not going to be the case.
Well, and she was probably thinking of you guys.
Absolutely.
She
absolutely.
She was used to taking care of you guys, and she wanted to continue to do that.
She wanted to continue, and she wanted to protect. There was, after it all, we all kind of wish she'd addressed it a little more, because as you go through the grief of it all.
Yeah.
That's part of the processing is talking about it as it's happening. But, the person that's going through it, you do what they need to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was about a year and a half. She had 2 surgeries, and we lost her May of 2020. So we were still in quarantine. It was 5 days before we went back to work. Are you going to cry?
I mean, it's going to happen.
I can just see it in your face. And it was crazy because during COVID, it was almost this odd blessing for me, because I didn't have to be at work and try to
private time.
Yeah. I didn't have to fake my way through anything. I did after she died, because my dumb ass thought that I had to go back. I was like, I'm going to lose my clients if I don't go back to work because we've been gone for 2 months. So I'm back to work 5 days after she died. And that was like,
wow,
fucked. It was fucked. I was dumb. I should have at least given myself a week, after that.
It's not dumb. I think you just, like, when I got a phone call that my dad had died, and I was at work, and I kept working. I think you just...
That day?
Yeah. I think in those moments, you just...
Survival. You just do what you have to do. Because also I'd been sitting at home for 2 months, and I was like, am I going to do that more?
And it's a distraction.
I think it's weird. I'm just now putting these things together, although I was very aware that was happening. I was also drowning in that same space.
Pool. Yeah.
And you said, like, we went back to work, I think May 26th was when we reopened, and I did my mushroom trip June 2nd.
Yeah.
And it was all around that same time.
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy.
Everyone was kind of drowning in their own way at that same time, and that made it a little weird because, getting through grief is, we as a society have made it a very individualistic thing, but it is by nature, by DNA, by human instinct. It is not an individual thing. It is a community thing. It is a thing that you need your people, and you need that experience of sharing it with the people that you're going through it with, or just being able to talk about it and it not being a weird thing. There are, grief groups for a reason, and I feel like a lot of people don't utilize them. I didn't, but I went to therapy, and so yeah, what was that for? What were we going?
Well, just you weren't around people.
Oh yeah,
for several months.
Yeah, and then we got back, and everyone was like just kind of drowning in their own pool of stuff. So it was weird to have to kind of. I didn't feel like I had to keep it to myself, but I also was like, I'm not. A lot of times when you go through something like that, you're the one in your circle going through something like that.
Right.
And so not that you need all that attention on you, but you're able to reach out to a lot more people and ask for what you might need. And I didn't feel like I could really do that because everyone was going through their own. And I was like, okay, well, I've got me. I am me. I will. And I had my family.
We had another employee who had just lost her mom.
Yeah. She had lost her mom.
In January of that year. So it
right
was
before COVID.
So that's a lot of heavy stuff within a small group.
Yeah.
Such a small group going through a lot of heavy stuff and really not knowing how to be there for each other in the ways that I think what you were saying, like we would have been if everyone wasn't going through it. Like I think that's
because we were a tight knit group. We were like, that was one thing that I always loved about Sabella was that we were a group of 5 or 6 women that didn't really have drama. We were very understanding and very communicative, and it was great.
Yeah.
But then, we couldn't be there for each other the way we needed to be.
Right. And no one's going to come and fix your problems, but sometimes you just need somebody to hold your hand and tell you it's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
And we did that the best we could.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was just weird for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that I did a lot of shutting down because I'm like, everyone is going through so much heavy stuff and I want to be there for everyone and I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
you had your own.
Here for me.
Who's here for you?
Like, I have to be here for me. And I feel bad. I shouldn't. I know I
feel like you're carrying some shame about this right now. I'm getting emotional.
But I don't ever look back at that and feel like you weren't there. Leah, you were there. Like, you were one of the people that helped me get through that. Anytime I needed you, no matter what you were doing, you were always at the ready. Like, no matter what you were going through.
Yeah, I think you both need to give, yourselves
Are
some
you crying
grace.
too?
I'm crying because you're crying, so I need you to stop because we just started.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we just
But
started.
honestly, I will say this too.
I'm just kidding.
I look at a lot of, there are kind of two hands at play. There's grief and there's gratitude. And you have to have one with the other to be able to appreciate and to really kind of be fulfilled in the moment that you're in, or be able to reflect back in fulfillment. And while it was difficult, I am grateful in ways. I have to find what I can be grateful for in that. And in a lot of what's happened in the past couple of years, I've found so much power and strength in myself that I knew was there, but I did not know how to tap into it. I did not know how to use it. I was like, I know this shit's in me. I know I can feel it, but I don't know how to use it.
And you and Leah are best friends. Girl, you just did my eyebrows.
I did.
I mean,
but that one session, like,
we got deep. We got deep, but we didn't go into like our own personal shit.
No, yeah.
We got deep into other things.
Yeah. Yep.
But where was I going with this?
Gratitude, I found my power and like strength.
Oh, this is what I was gonna say. I saw that. Like I don't even know you that well, and I saw that in you. But sometimes we don't see it in ourselves. Other people see you that way. Yeah. And I always saw you that way.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So how did you make it through that first, like, coming back to work and having to grieve? And I remember, this is going to sound terrible, and I know that we've talked about this before. I think you used humor sometimes.
Oh my God.
You did too.
I make dead mom jokes all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. It makes people so uncomfortable, but I'm like, it's my grief. I'll do with it what I want. I don't do it to my family members because I don't know that, it's their grief too.
I remember a client walking in one time. A client walks in and she says something like, "Have you been?" or something, or said something like that, and you were like, "Well, my mom just died."
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Or like, how was your quarantine?
It wasn't like I wasn't always that curt with it. But we were walking out of there. Here's an example. We were walking out of CVS. Leah and I went to the drugstore, and I bought $70 worth of candy. I'm not like $70. I think there was like maybe
of just candy,
pack of batteries and a hairbrush in there or something. I don't know.
So much,
but
candy.
The rest was some fucking candy.
But it was some fucking candy, and we're walking out, and Leah goes, "I can't believe you just bought $70 worth of candy." And there's this guy walking into the drugstore beside us, and I was like, "Well, my mom just died, so I can do whatever I want." And I just saw his head in my peripheral, like, just swivel, like, the fuck.
And like, let her live.
Yeah.
Let her eat the fucking candy.
Give her the candy. So, but I still, people don't know how to, they don't know how to receive it.
So, when I was in college, like, if a guy would hit on me at the bar and I was not into it, I'd start talking about my dad and how he was abusive.
Oh, shit.
Oh, God.
Like, how do you...
And I would just start talking about it.
Just go into it.
And they'd be like, wow, look at the time. I gotta go to the fucking bathroom or just go anywhere besides here. And I'd be like, yeah, that's what I thought. Bye.
See ya.
Wow.
That's fucked up.
It is a good way. A friend of mine told me this recently. She was like, if someone's like death talking you, then you just take it over and you pick a topic and you just death talk them about a really uncomfortable topic. And I was like, that's brilliant. So next time somebody's just going in on me about something, I'm just going to go in on my dead mom. And it's going to make them so uncomfortable. But it will release me from that torturous conversation.
Yeah. And there's like a dark humor side to you that I love.
I've seen that. Even like the little bit I've been around you, I've seen that.
Well, how the fuck else are you supposed to get through things, Like, I don't laugh at everything. I don't laugh at I do laugh at inappropriate times. It's really hard sometimes. But, I don't make jokes at other people's expense. It's always my own shit.
Yeah. Self-deprecating, very much
absolutely.
So. Yeah.
And I feel like, sometimes I used to have self-deprecating humor as a way to like mask my insecurities. Now it's the way to embrace them.
I like that outlook.
I have the power over my insecurities. I know what they are. I work on them, and I am actually secure in my insecurities.
Yeah.
So, because we all have them.
Right.
I think it's very hard to get to a place where you just don't. So yeah, the humor comes from that. But the humor around grief for me was just I think it was a survival mechanism. Like I lost the most important person in my life. And that was on top of, so my mom was diagnosed, and then a month later, my aunt, who was the closest thing to a second mom, like she was my aunt. She was like, we baked pies together. I just fucking loved her. She died a month after my mom's diagnosis. And then...
Were they sisters?
No, this was her sister-in-law. She was like a sister. My mom and dad were together since they were 17. So...
Wow.
They were very close. So my dad lost his sister a month after mom's diagnosis. And then that was in September, October, November, December. So 4 months later, in January, his brother, my uncle, died of a lung disease. So our family was rocked a lot in that time. Yeah. And the grief of my aunt and uncle was really hard. My uncle and I weren't that close, but I enjoyed him. And he was a pillar, you know, those people are pillars in your life. But I wasn't, that grief was never fully processed because, you know, the stuff with my mom overshadowed it. And then my mom's tumor came back, and then she wasn't the same person after her second surgery. And that was in 2019. That was in May of 2019. She pretty much got back to herself after the first one. After the second one, it was her frontal lobe, which is, you know, what's it called? Impulse control, you know, some of your motor function. Like there's a lot that goes on in your frontal lobe that's affected when you cut into it, not only once, but twice. And so watching her after that, you're watching someone very slowly become someone that you don't know and you have to relearn. She was still there. She was still her. Right. But there were just changes. And I remember when we went to Michigan, I took Leah and a couple of girlfriends up to, our family has a place in Michigan. And she was there, and some of them, you had met her many times. You knew the difference that was there, but the other girls had never met her. And so they were like, she seems normal and fine to me. And I'm like, you don't know her. You don't know her. You know, she's not decrepit. She's not completely incapacitated, but she is definitely, you know, a different person and a different human. And learning that, it was weird because there's a lot of that I haven't processed yet. Even just talking about it now, I'm realizing that I haven't really processed that part of it, because for me, it's like she was diagnosed. There was all of that. A lot of things have happened since she died that have overshadowed, and we can get into that. I won't get into like super details of it, but that's a part of my story as well. And just a lot of things have overshadowed me being able to process my grief not the correct way, because everyone's way is different, but the way I wanted to and the way I think I needed to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and you talk about your mom very, very highly and how she was like your best friend and your soulmate. So how did since you have a brother and your dad, how did the dynamic of your family change? Because if she was like the matriarch of the family, and usually, you know, moms are
the glue.
They are the glue, and they're the nurturers and the caregivers, and
they're the driving force.
Right. They're who you go to when you're struggling and, you know, going through something. And now none of you guys have that.
Yeah. So I think I was pretty naive as to how that was going to be affected in the beginning. You know, she died in May, and that first summer we really pulled together. And I remember we were up at our family house in Michigan, and we had this really great trip together as a family with my nieces, who are young and were younger at the time, obviously, and they were just experiencing this all. And so we were like, you know, enjoying watching them experience things as young children and having just this beautiful family trip together. And we were there to scatter her ashes. And it was a really beautiful time, sad, bittersweet. And there was that whole, you know, watching my family there, it was what she always wanted. Yeah. And the fact that she wasn't there, but that her death had brought us together in that way. I thought that that's what was going to continue. And as Leah knows very well, that is not at all what happened. Okay. We've always had a very close-knit family, and we are still close, and we have allowed, I think, the intense love that we have always had for each other, and the fact that we are family, that is what has kept us together.
Yeah.
But we've gone through this. We've grieved my mother completely separately. We have not come together in it. And I don't think either of them would argue with me on that. So about 4 months after Mom died, I guess it was about 4 months after Mom died, our family was pretty shook. My dad processed things. It's hard for me to talk about a little bit, but it's also because it's other people's business and life as well. But at this point, it is.
But it affected you.
It did affect me. And I haven't talked about it up until now because, a lot of people were still processing. But it's been almost 2 years since this event happened. And it's still happening. It is what it is. It's the truth. And it's not a secret.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not in my angry feels about it.
Well, and it's
anymore.
your truth, too. You're allowed to share your truth.
It is. I just always feel like I need to be sensitive to other people. But at this point, I can talk about kind of what happened. So, a little bit of backstory. My best friend since I was 7, her little sister is about, this is going to be a tangled web. You got to follow.
Okay. I'm like,
yeah. My best friend since I was 7. Her little sister is 7 years younger than me. Okay. And I've known her since she was 1. So, 7, 8 years, something like that. And she's always, their family was an extension of my family. Yeah. They were a second family. I just was ingrained in them and them in us a little bit. And my mom and I were very close to her mom and her little sister. And over time, as we got older, her little sister became not only, she was very much a little sister to me as well, but she also became a friend as she got older and as we were able to share more of life together. And she still came to me with life stuff, but I also went to her with stuff. Right. And she knew me very well in a lot of ways that other people didn't. And so about 4 months after I started having suspicions that she and my dad had struck up a friendship. And she was in the middle of going through a divorce, and she had, kind of gone to him for a little bit of advice because our families were close. But I've gone to her dad for advice, so, I didn't really think much of it. Second dad.
Not a red flag.
Not a red flag. But my gut
that I was going to say that gut instinct, though.
That gut doesn't tend to lie, and I got suspicions pretty early on. And then it came out about 2 months later that their friendship had grown into something else, and they'd been lying about it for quite a while.
Ooh.
And they were dating, and she was also the receptionist at Sabella at that time, so I was working with her every single day.
Oh,
awkward. It's a bomb. Yeah,
that's not a fucking bomb. That's a fucking nuke.
It was a nuke. It exploded my life in a way that this was at an incredibly vulnerable time.
Wow.
And it was just a careless thing.
You just stated that you want to be sensitive to other people.
You can ask.
Okay.
Yeah, ask what you want to ask, and I'll either answer or I'll...
Do you feel like they were sensitive to you?
Absolutely not.
Okay. That's where I was going with that.
No.
Because you seem, even now, like you still are hesitant and sensitive to...
I am. Because my dad is my dad.
I get that.
For 36 years, I couldn't have asked for a better father. And I still couldn't ask for, he's an amazing dad.
Well, and he's grieving.
And he's gone through a lot of trauma. He was the one that took care of my mom. And there's a lot that comes.
And they had been together since they were 17?
Since they were 17. Yeah. And they had a deep love,
That's heavy, heavy, heavy stuff.
Yeah. And he had lost his siblings and stuff. So don't get me wrong, I had my intense feelings about all of it. And they were very valid. And I will still stand by my feelings about everything.
And I think you can have multiple feelings at the same time about a situation.
Absolutely.
You can feel sad, but feel upset and angry or frustrated or not understand.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I think you are coming out of the other side of that in such a profound way that it's easier.
Yeah. So... That situation came to light, and that she was cut out immediately.
I was going to say that obviously ended a friendship, right?
She was immediately cut out, and
that's another loss.
That's another loss. Like the grief of all of this as I've moved forward, and that's kind of why I do bring up this situation, is because it all plays into how my grief has gone and what the process. What I expected it to be, what I wanted it to be. And grieving that as well. There's been so many layers to it, and there always is with grief. It's not, people expect it to be, well, we learn there are 7 stages of grief, and you go through this, and then you go through this, and it's boom, 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 and it's this pretty process in a bow. And it's not. One day you go through all of them. The next day you go through one. The next day you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
You'll be fine and going along, and life is life. And then something takes your knees out from under you, and it could be the most minuscule thing that you would never have expected.
Yeah.
But going back to kind of finding the gratitude in it, which it took a long time to find this in it, because it took me working through it.
Right.
There was no question as to whether my father was going to remain in my life after that. But to do the work to keep him in my life, it all overshadowed dealing with the grief of my mother. So I was still feeling all of these feelings, but I couldn't process them because I was overtaken. It wasn't a choice.
Yeah.
It was how my mind and body processed it. I was overtaken by this huge traumatic event that happened, and I had to work so very hard. I mean, this was like Olympic training style mental and emotional gymnastics to get to the place that I needed to be at peace enough to accept what was happening, because it wasn't changing. They continued on and have still. And, I had to be able to accept this is not changing. So you have to find peace within it with yourself. You can still feel the way you feel about it.
Right.
But you got to find peace you can't. And it was hindering me being able to live my life the way I needed and be the person I needed to be.
Yeah.
So my grief was overshadowed for quite a long time. And then I am still, grief goes on for, you're always experiencing your grief. You just kind of, you grow around it.
So you've talked about microdosing. Have you done a heroic dose?
I have done a heroic dose. Yeah.
And did you do this?
I did this. So that all came out in October of 2020.
Okay.
Election day, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just throwing bomb after motherfucking
it was
bomb.
A very stressful day. January, after a few months, I came to Leah and I was like, I'm ready. I can't take this anymore. I'm tortured right now. And when I say tortured, like, that sounds dramatic, but I was
I feel like you're a very private person and somebody who is very good at, like I said, I saw a very confident, badass you, but maybe the vulnerability part is a little bit harder.
It's harder with, it is. And I'm not afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But, that might not be true.
Ooh. Yeah.
That might not be true. Because I'm vulnerable a lot, but I'm vulnerable with myself. I'm vulnerable in very close circles with maybe 2-3 people. Like, even this, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Like the cameras.
Because
you don't know me that well.
I don't know you that well, but I also don't know. I think it makes me more uncomfortable sharing things about someone else.
Yeah.
Even though that's as far as I've gone into it, and that's as far as I really will go into it.
Yeah.
But I'm still in therapy. I still deal with a lot of these things, and being vulnerable brings on a lot of anxiety sometimes.
So back to, you went to Leah and you're like, hey, like, I'm fucking struggling.
Well,
like, I need to do this.
I want to kind of backtrack a little, not backtrack, but around that same time, we had closed the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had to go, I was going out on my own, and I was building a business on my own. Yeah. And that I had known about for a while.
Yeah.
So I'd been, going into that, but I was just really overwhelmed with everything except the death of my mother for a long time.
Like, so that took a back seat.
Yeah. Even my heroic dose even my trip was more centered on it wasn't centered on her. Like, I knew she'd be a part of it, but I really just needed to let go of a lot of anger and fear. That was my intention, was let go of anger and fear. Because I knew that was the only way that I was going to get to a point where I could process all of that for me and for her. You know, I still live my life for the both of us. I still feel very connected to her. She was a very spiritual person. I am as well. And my relationship with her, it's taken a while to really understand how to still have a relationship with her, but I do, and it's a very real one.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, I still live not only for me, but to carry on the way I know she would have wanted me to.
Well, and that's special too, because you and I didn't really have that closeness with our parents, where you're like, it's, you can share, and
she knew everything about me.
Yeah, it's a safe space.
It's a very safe space.
So the fact that you have that and that's never going to go away, no one can ever take that from you. Like, that's giving me goosebumps.
Yeah, I always loved the relationship you and your mom had.
Yeah.
And I think you touched on this a minute ago. Like, you were doing all these like mental Olympics to try to be okay with what was happening.
Yeah.
And
I was kind of like, the gravity of that wasn't understood by the people in it.
Yeah.
You know, so I was fighting against that.
You were talking about how before that all happened, you guys were kind of grieving together, and then it kind of separated everything. So you and I have talked a lot in the past year and a half about all of this stuff, and we get really deep and we talk about a lot of things. And
I'm very vulnerable with you.
You are.
I'm very vulnerable with you.
So
it's kind of easy.
At work
vulnerable
with me, it's like cry sessions every day. Like, literally.
Yeah. But even you, for a while, you were like, I don't see you cry. And I didn't, but then
like, I feel
you broke
emotional.
me open at one point. Yeah.
Well, what I saw in the first year and a half, and maybe it was after your mushroom trip, maybe that's when it started to come out, is we've talked about this too. You were trying to be the glue.
Yeah.
Where your mom was before, and you were trying so desperately hard to bring everyone back together. And I think we maybe recently realized this, not we, you, but we talked about it, how you were like, I forgot to take care of me. Yeah. I wasn't taking care of me.
Yeah. I was, to a degree, but not the way I needed to. But I did. We were broken. And I didn't break us, but I felt like I needed to help fix it. I needed to take her place.
Nobody else was doing it.
I knew I couldn't take her place, but
right.
I needed to make Christmas as much of what it used to be, and, all of these things. And that's what I wanted for me too. But I was naive in thinking that I had that power to be able to do that where I was. I was not this healed person that was able to compartmentalize. I wasn't able to do that. And they didn't need me to do that. Mm-hmm. I was trying to heal other people with my love. And
that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And if my former relationships have taught me anything, I should have fucking known that,
I've tried.
You can't love people through it. I mean, you can and you should, but you can't fix it.
They have to fix it.
Yeah.
You can hold their hand.
Them. Yeah.
They've got to heal themselves.
What happened after what came out of your mushroom experience? Like,
it was the best day of my life. It was so great.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, my God. It was the best day.
It was the best and the worst.
It was. It was this. I've never felt so shitty and so good at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of what a mushroom experience is.
It is. Like, I'm like, how is this the worst thing? Because and I fought that. I fought the vulnerability of that.
Same, bitch.
So that's good. Like, yeah.
We were talking about this the other day because somebody was asking about it, and I was just like, you have to surrender to it, because if you don't surrender to the medicine, if you fight the experience, it's going to get so uncomfortable.
Oh, and it was, man.
But I think the uncomfortability was good for me.
Yeah, it kind of forces you into it, and that's what I try to tell people. I'm like, you can't fight it. Once you take the medicine. Like,
there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do, because the more you resist it, the worse it's going to get.
I was going to say, you can make it, like, there's discomfort in it, but I experienced 2 different types of discomfort. There was the discomfort while I was fighting it.
Yeah.
And then there was the discomfort of just, like, feeling everything.
That is so true. That is a very, very good point. Yeah, because I fought it too, and I was like, I don't want to do this.
How long did you fight it for?
A good 2 hours.
Same.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, same. And the only thing I knew how to do was just cry harder.
Same.
But with her being in the room, even though she's seen me cry, with her being in the room, it was like, I still felt this weird, like, I don't want to let fully go. I thought I was. I didn't know how I was.
You kept asking me to leave the room.
Yeah, I asked her to leave the room, but then I would, like, feel really alone.
And then she'd be like, come back.
And so she'd come back, and I was like, all right, you just got to do this with her here, because when she left, I felt, I got so in my head and anxiety ridden.
So you didn't want to be alone, but was it almost like, you were worried she's going to judge you, or you were just worried about...
Maybe.
Like, it was scary for you to just go into that. Like, you didn't even know how to go into it.
You know, the funny thing is, I wasn't afraid of feeling what I needed to feel.
Yeah.
But the anxiety I was feeling was because I was thinking about everyone else. I was thinking about what my boyfriend would think, what my dad would think, what everyone would think about me doing this. And I started playing all these fucking scenarios in my head instead of, you know, just fucking feeling what I needed to feel, and
being
saying,
in the present,
fuck all them, they're not here, and you don't have to even talk to them about it, you know, like and I was also doing them a disservice.
Well, and I think that's the one thing you did for yourself.
Yeah.
This is this is about you.
This is about me.
Nobody else cared about you.
But
and
that sounds
downfall. Bad. That sounds terrible, but like
thanks.
Like other people were making
in everyone's life.
Right. Other people were doing things for them.
Yeah, everyone else was doing what they needed to do for them.
And it's so weird that you were doing something for you and worried about other people.
Yeah. And let me be clear, there were definitely people that were there. I mean, my boyfriend did not leave my side. My brother was, we are so close now. Like, he fucking swooped in and just...
That's awesome.
Big brother style.
He strong-armed me into, like, safety. And my sister-in-law, you know, and my best friend since I was 7, she was like, you. Fuck that. You.
Wow. Okay. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Too.
She hasn't spoken to her sister since it happened. And that was, I did not. I was like, that's your sister. Right. You deal with that how you need to. If she's still in that's you.
But the thing is your mom's passing affected so many people, including her too. So she was like, you know,
she was close to my mom. Right. You know, her mom was close to my mom.
So she probably felt betrayed as well.
There were ripple effects from my mom's death, and then from that event that just kind of, there were ripple effects.
Well, and there's ripple effects with trauma, and there's ripple effects with healing.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I'm glad you said that, because the ripple effects from healing is one of the things that has kind of carried me through and helped me find my purpose.
Yeah.
Not that my purpose is centered around other people, but I have always, you know, I feel like my anxieties of what other people are going to think come from a genuine place. They're meant to be there.
Yeah.
But not in the way that I evoke them.
Yeah.
And the ripple effects from me being able to heal myself and kind of, this is going to sound so like conflated, but
we say that all the time.
The ripple effects of me being able to heal myself. And I feel like what that, just the positive that can come from that, we'll say.
Yeah.
You know.
So what was your experience like then? So we talked about the discomfort and you kind of avoiding it. Once you got in it.
Once I got in it, it was pretty fucking great.
Really?
Even through the crying. Like, I actually like crying. I think crying is a beautiful fucking thing. I do it on a very regular basis.
We both have cried so far today.
I do it a lot, like the shower, one of my favorite places to cry.
It's a good place to cry.
It's a good place to cry. The car, oh my God, driving around, crying in the car, listening to music, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Were you the one telling me you would watch Grey's Anatomy just to cry?
Yeah. Okay. That was my therapy back in the day, because those episodes used to be, it's not what it used to be, but man, those episodes used to be something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would watch it and I would just cry.
I've never even seen the series, but I've seen TikToks.
Oh yeah,
of people recording their
reactions.
Husband, and I don't know what happened, but something was like a huge plot twist.
Oh, girl, there are so many.
I know.
That's every episode.
I know.
I still watch the entire series every year and a half. I'll go from one to end, and I'll skip the episodes that I don't like, whatever. But because it is just it's a familiar sadness. I know what's coming.
There's grief there.
But there is grief, and I can cry at it, and I can get out what I need to, and just, enjoy wallowing for a little bit, because I think wallowing is very important. You just have to balance it.
I think crying needs to be so normalized, and feelings need to be more normalized.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we talk
absolutely.
about that a lot, but I don't think people understand how much of a release it is.
Yeah.
And
when
people
you're
get very
holding it in.
uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
Why are you crying?
They get so uncomfortable when you're crying.
Oh, yeah.
That's part of why I don't do it in front of people, because I'm like, I'm okay crying, but you seem very uncomfortable.
It's just feelings.
Yeah.
I just have a lot of them.
I have a lot of them. Don't we all? So yeah, once I let go, because I realized I was fighting it. I just remember sitting there thinking, I'm fighting this. And simultaneously when that was in my head, Leah said, I think you're fighting this. And I was like, well,
shit.
And the only thing I knew how to do was just cry harder. So I just fucking cried harder. And I cried for probably about the next 2 hours. And I cried my childhood out. I heaved my entire body. I don't know if I've ever sobbed that hard.
You probably purged some shit out.
A lifetime. And what came from that was just pure love. That is all I felt throughout my entire trip, was just pure love for every single person. Even these people that I was so angry at that time, because they were still pillars in my life. And, even this friend, it was 30 years of loving this person as hard as I could, because she was my family. Yeah. And then the sadness and grief of, you were very willing to throw that away. And even when, you maybe didn't think you were throwing it away, but when you realized you were. And so I felt a lot of love. I felt a lot of grief. And I felt a lot of joy throughout that few hours. I just remember feeling so light and being able to think about, I still, I've listened back to the recording and I can still remember, I'll be like, and I'm sure at one point Leah was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I was like, and she's just so good. I remember who I was talking about, different friends and different people in my life.
Were you talking to someone?
I have no idea who she was talking about.
I was talking to myself. I was just talking out loud. There was no one. I didn't see anyone. I didn't, there was smoke coming up from the incense and that was going in funny ways, but it was all just a purging. There wasn't, the wood grain was moving kind of funny, but.
No, I just sat there.
Yeah. You just sat there.
I didn't interact.
You didn't.
I'm like,
I think you said one or two things throughout the time, but I purged everything and I felt so light afterward, and I felt so good in that moment, and I was able to shed a lot of, I hit my intentions, almost everything that I had put down as an intention I hit. And so when I came out of that, I moved forward able to process, able to work through and remember, it's that integration that you have to go through after your trip. It's not magic.
Yeah.
You all know that very well. It's not magic. You get out of it and you have to implement. That's the hard part. The trip is the easy part.
I know. The universe fucking, it's hey,
and they throw it at you, man.
Here's a test.
They fucking throw it at you. And you've got to stay conscious of what you really want to do and what your purpose was from that. And what keeps me what I found in that trip was, I just want to love, man. If I can take me back to Woodstock, I just want to love. I love these people. even the people that are no longer here, it was kind of a release of, we loved, you did this, I'm angry, but I have to process what I have to do, my stuff. I have to process the fact that, my life has just kind of been turned upside down. So I am releasing, you go do you, and I'll deal with you. We're working through this.
Now that's going to be put on the back burner.
Yeah. And it wasn't, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, because, my father and I have gotten to a great place. We still have work to do, but we've both done work, and, we're in a good place. But I'm still just now realizing, as that's kind of settled out, like I'm still very much in the grief, and I'm kind of right where I feel like I would have been, in some of the feelings that are coming up now. I'm where I would have been, maybe a few months after.
Yeah.
So it's kind of taken you back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's giving you another chance. Like, it's giving you a chance to grieve properly.
It gave me, I need to do another one because it's been about a year and a half.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like,
we've talked about it, but
I think I want to ask everyone this question, like, how when it's time to do another trip. And I was on an integration call this morning, or not an integration call, a discovery call. And somebody in there said something, and I literally immediately texted Jason. I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And it was about psychedelics. And it says, it's like an old saying that when you get the message, you hang up.
Yeah.
And when it rings, you answer. And it's like, you kind of have this, it's weird. I know people think I'm weird for saying this. I know you guys don't. I love you guys for that. But,
Mm-hmm.
You have this relationship with mushrooms after that is this grateful appreciation, like you're connected to it in some type of way. I don't think that you ever forget your experiences. But it's not something you keep going to every time you're going through something hard. But it's almost like this knowing, you have this connection where you can feel that it's time.
Mm-hmm. You kind of know, I think, when you either need to reset a little bit, or maybe there's new stuff that's a continuation that, you've got to work through that. But I still, to this day, go back. I still use my trip as a tool in moments or in periods of life where it's every day, and I think it'll be an everyday thing for the rest of my life. What I've learned, you don't, we've talked about this, you don't unlearn what you learn.
You can't unlearn. Once you take the red pill, it doesn't go away.
Unlearn it, so it stays with you. Yeah.
So you think it's about time?
I do, yeah, I think it's about time.
I think you're going through a lot of life right now, like what you said earlier, like the house selling and just a lot all at once. And I think I'm coming up on another time. Like, it's been 10 months since my last one, and it's not because I'm going through anything heavy, and I'm like so thankful for that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm finally to the good part. But I just feel like, all right, I'm ready. Mm-hmm. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
But it's not a reaching, like, what can I do? I need to do something. It's almost like
it's not like reaching for a lifeline.
It's not reaching for a lifeline anymore. That's what it was for me. The second time I was desperate for a lifeline and for a way out. And then this time it's more of a relationship, like a friendship. Like, what else do you have for me?
Yeah. Because they're going to show you what they need to
how
show you.
can I show up even more than I already have? But I think everybody's reason for doing another one is different. It's just weird how that works.
How you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think right now I just I got to a place a little while ago where I felt kind of stuck. And so I needed something to kind of dig me out of that and show me, like, here's the path that you need to be on. And I don't feel as stuck anymore, but I'm still just in that where I'm like, there are a few different options of paths, and I'm learning how to trust my gut more, mm-hmm. and have a pretty clear relationship with that. But the mushrooms just kind of, they show you what they beat you over the head with what you need to know and where you need to go.
I need to say something.
Because it's you.
And I'm going to cry.
Okay.
You have said several times, I don't know how you did this without anyone, because my support at home wasn't there.
Cry. Shit. It's going to make me cry.
I had you.
Oh.
Shit. So we talk a lot about like community and having people who understood. And I think, don't give me thanks. You understood where I was, and I think you and I grew very, very, very close we were always close, and we've talked about this so many times. We always came back together. Like, I met you.
Oh, so long ago.
There's a picture of us on a bar before I even knew her.
Like,
we were
I was
connected.
bartending. She was dancing on the bar next to me.
Yeah, we didn't even know each other, and then we ended up bartending together, and then you worked for me, and we always found our way back. And the past couple of years, we've been in this tiny little space together, and every day is like therapy.
But it's not.
But not bad.
It's not heavy. Yeah, it's just support.
It's
love.
been watching her grow, and
her watching you grow.
Been there for me so many times, and so I feel like I need to get that out, because while I'll say I didn't have a support system, I didn't have a community, I had you, and I thank you for that. Like, I'm forever grateful for that. But I feel like we were like,
yeah,
we were rock solid. I mean, we still are.
But we were a big part of what got us through.
I think it needed to happen that way.
Yeah, absolutely. You, my bond with you and my relationship with you is very similar to the bond that I felt with my mom. Oh. And there's a similar.
We're going to do a past life regression.
Yeah, there's a very similar energy there.
Really,
the trust and the safety and the love and how deep that love goes, and just kind of a knowing. It's just a knowing. But I think you've inspired the fuck out of me. Watching you, you talk about watching me grow, but girl, you've always been an amazing person. You've always been you, but watching the transformation that you've gone through in the past couple of years, and especially in the past 9 months to a year, when you really started putting that work in to yourself, has been nothing really short of inspiring to keep me going at times when I kind of feel like I want to when I kind of feel like I want to give up. I just, I'm watching you do it. When you watch someone do it and you see that you can go a long way.
It's that ripple effect.
Yeah.
It's like a mutual thing.
It's very mutual.
Yeah.
But that's both beautiful.
But I think you knew that, yeah.
And I think that's, we need community. And I think, a lot of female friendships, this is a very special dynamic that's sacred. I mean, and you guys
there's nothing, I think, that I don't think there's anything that we wouldn't support the other person through, Yeah.
Yeah.
So. The power of the mushrooms.
The power of mushrooms, yeah.
Not that it wasn't good before, but I think just having that, both of us being catapulted into...
It's been weird. It's been almost a similar trajectory. We tend to be going through the same type of thing at the same time. The details are just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens more often than I think people even...
How long have you guys known each other?
2008 was when we started bartending together.
Damn.
Yeah.
And we haven't been connected. There were years where I would just see on Facebook she was doing something.
Yeah, because we would go years without speaking. But she used to come hang out at my pool with baby Gabe.
Oh my God, baby Gabe.
Yeah. With his big lips, and
now he's like, hey.
now he's like, hey.
I was that person the other day. I was like, oh my God, you're so grown.
And then she's like, oh no, I'm that person, and walked away. So we've known each other a while, but we've talked before about doing a past life regression, and I was gonna get Endora to do one for us for her birthday. But then I found out
my birthday present?
It was gonna be.
No.
But then I found out Jenny does it.
Jenny Shanks does it?
Yes.
No shit.
And I kind of want to do it with her.
I was excited about Endora
because I know you already have a connection with Jenny.
I do have a connection with Jenny. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
How?
Well, she's done a few readings for me, but we like. I mean, I'm not saying like she likes me, but she's done a few readings for me, and I've had readings before, and there is like just an energetic connection there.
Yeah, so I'm like, we'll all see her Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, let's talk to her.
So we should ask her how she does that, because I talked to my tattoo artist yesterday, has done tried to do a past life with her, and she hypnotizes you.
Ooh. Oh.
I don't know how I feel about that.
But like, you have to be in this like meditative, hypnotic state.
God, I hope I can do that.
I know that's kind of
like, my brain doesn't. I think a lot of people's brains don't shut off anymore.
I couldn't get hypnotized.
It's gotta be a lot harder to do it.
We just might have to microdose that day.
Maybe so.
Maybe microdose it. But we'll talk to her Saturday, because I think it would be really interesting. We've always felt that about each other. Mm-hmm. And I also think you're also an empath.
Yeah, it's in a very different way than you all are. Like, the way you've described...
What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah. The way you all have described your empath, I don't identify with it the way that you all do. I think it's more of kind of like a latent, it's like a background trait of mine, whereas your all's is very like front and center. I feel the energy of someone, and I have a hard time not matching it. I have a hard time but I can, if someone tells me a sad story, I don't go home and be sad about it. Like, I can shed that and let it be theirs.
So you're definitely highly sensitive.
I'm highly sensitive. Yeah. I'm not, I think I'm on the lower end of, let's say if the empath was a spectrum, I think I'm on, but there's also, I don't know. It's weird. I haven't explored it honestly too much since you have started talking like more in depth, because the more you all explain how you all are, I'm like, well, I mean, I know my experience and I know how I feel, but in the definition of an empath, I'm not sure I might just be a very empathetic and highly sensitive human.
Yeah.
Well, what I loved about that though is when I found out it was kind of with you. Mm-hmm. We had that experience together. And
with the shaman?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And
watch.
And you were like, oh, she was there in person when that happened.
I know.
So
I saw a video of that. I was like, crazy. What?
You were like, well, yeah, I could have told you that. Yeah. And I'm like, excuse me, no one was telling me this. Like, she knew all along, and she was like, I just thought you knew. Yeah. But also the spiritual side of things, I was like not spiritual at all, and you've kind of always been that. Yeah. And it's been really cool, because in the very beginning I would come to you and be like, so can I talk to my spirit guides? How do you talk to them? And the first time I ever did that, I think I called you.
Yeah, because you got what you asked. They sent you you saw a message from them.
It was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I was like,
are you spiritual, or are you like... That's no.
I'm getting into it.
Okay.
I mean, I did my mushroom trip 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. So there's just been a lot of changing it. And there's been a lot of openness in the last 6 months. Yeah. But it's just still, I'm like dipping my toes into a little bit of everything and trying to figure it out.
I think people think that if they do them, they're going to have this spiritual awakening, and I don't think that that's how it happens. I think it's a gradual walk into spirituality.
And I think there are just different things that resonate with different people. Like, I'm probably not going to have crystals, and maybe I will. I don't know. But
what's on your wrist right there? I'm just kidding. That was a gift. That was a gift.
I don't resonate with crystals. I've had you make me some, and I wear them, and I'm going to be honest. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, I mean, that's okay. If it works, but also they're just real pretty. I want an anklet. Yeah. And I want to support you. I'm wearing them today because, hey, Luna.
But this is
advertising.
But this is where I'm like, you keep saying you're not there, and I respect that, because like what we were talking about in our last episode, you might not ever get there. But you this would blow your mind because Jason has always been very atheist, not even questioning.
Yeah, he's like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right?
And literally a few weeks ago, it came out that he's not.
You told me that.
And I look at him and I'm like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, I don't know if I don't believe in anything anymore. There's just too much that I don't know. And I'm looking at him in just disbelief because this man has been atheist as long as I have known him. Like, it was,
but he's
hearing
just evolving so much over the past year.
Well, what I think is happening now, and he can probably talk more on this on a more personal level, maybe if he wants, I don't know. But I think he's having this awakening now. Mm-hmm. And it has been almost 10 months since his last trip. So it's not a instant.
Yeah.
He's starting to see 11:11.
Yeah.
I shit you not. He'll like look down at his phone and be like, oh, fuck.
Well, the 11:11 thing for me is, it's not new, but I never realized that it meant you're like in the right place at the right time. Isn't it? That's what it is.
It's supposed to be like you're on the right path. You're on the journey. You're getting
it's
there.
It's like a sign like, yes, keep going. To me, it was always like, oh, it's 11:11, make a wish.
Oh, I
always saw it, but I was like, make a wish. And so I'd make a wish, like, whatever.
Yeah. So when all of these things started happening, and I didn't know that that's what was happening. I think I've told you before. I didn't realize what I was going through was like an awakening.
Right.
I just thought I was going crazy. But I always had you to like reassure me. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh, okay, all right. So that's my spirit guides,
Yeah. And it sounds like
giving me a message.
It sounds, anymore, I have no problems talking about it to anyone. I used to be like, I don't want to talk about it because people are going to think I'm crazy, because people are very judgmental about that kind of stuff.
100%.
But I know what I know.
Right.
I know what I experienced.
Right.
I know I don't have a brain tumor. So it's not like something's in there making me see these things or experience this. It is a slow process and a learning thing. My mom died 2 years ago. I've been spiritual for years.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to have a relationship with her in that realm for the past 2 years. I'm just getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And same thing with Jason and same thing with myself. Like, I think him and I were a little black and white about like, we are this or we are this and I am here and whatever. And
no, it helps your identity. It helps you feel safe in a spot where you can label
but it's like what you and I were just talking about. I just am. And I think that now I just have more of an openness to everything.
Yeah.
To hearing everything, to learning everything. It may not resonate with me, but the openness is still there.
And isn't that the key? Like,
yeah,
being open.
Yeah.
And I think I was very worried about like who I was and labels, but I just am. Yeah. And so whatever like is going to happen down this path called fucking life, like I'm just here to learn about it and experience it.
Yeah.
And if something resonates with me, I'm going to go into it. And if it doesn't, then I won't.
Yeah.
Well, and now Jason just goes with it when I'm like,
and I think that's a good mindset.
I keep getting signs that we need to go to Sedona. He's like, okay, let's go to Sedona.
But I'll tell you what, when you do start kind of paying attention in whatever way does resonate with you, when you start paying attention to where you're supposed to be going, life starts to make more sense. And that sounds like a very broad statement, and it is. But there is nothing now. I get disappointed.
Yeah.
I get disappointed about a lot of things. I have feelings about a lot of things.
Right.
But what gets me through those feelings is knowing, well, it wasn't meant for you. That wasn't supposed to be on your path. You wanted it to be, but it wasn't. So that's because there's something else. And it's kind of, you can find evidence in that when you look back at your life. The things that didn't work out, think about the things that happened because that didn't work out. And you're like, oh, well, that's why.
To me, that's
it might not show for
faith.
years, but it is. And people are, I think, afraid of. I'm not super comfortable with the word faith, because I am not a religious person. I identify as Jewish. It's a lineage thing. It's a kind of cultural and heritage thing with me, not a religion. But faith to a lot of people equals God, and God is not my center. I don't have a relationship with a God in any way. Maybe there is one. I have no idea.
And I think that's okay.
That's okay.
Because that's the amazing thing about faith.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where
it's not this black and white box that it's this or it's this.
I call it
whatever you want it to be and whatever.
Faith for me is faith in life. Faith in the universe, but faith in that.
But you're not worshiping life, and you're not worshiping the universe, and that's I think the difference between like.
I'm having faith
religion
in the fact
and
that if I make decisions intentionally, I'm going to get where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Now, like going back to your mom and how you were trying to fill that role.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe she wanted you to have a different role and to experience different things that she never got to experience?
Yeah. She wanted me to. She knew me. She knew what I was supposed to do and who I was supposed to be. And she knew that wasn't her. I didn't. I knew my life wasn't supposed to look like hers. For a long time, I thought it was. But yeah, she wouldn't have wanted me to try and take that on, you know? And I think she was trying to tell me for a while, this ain't yours, baby.
Yeah.
This ain't for you. You let them be.
She wants you to be you.
You be you. Change you. Figure out you. Not change you, but just figure out you. Don't try to
Goosebumps.
Don't try to fix the situation, because I didn't. It put heavy expectations on them that were not fair. Mm-hmm. It put and on myself that also weren't fair. But you know, and it just caused. I think it caused more. I don't want to say it caused more harm than good, but it caused me more heartache than I needed.
Yeah.
To have.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to make something what I had expected it to be. And that's another thing, you know, when you're going through fucking grief, it overtakes kind of sometimes your mental processes. I will say, and I will stand by this is a hill that I will fucking die on. When all that shit went down, I handled it real fucking well. Because there are a lot of people that would have beat a bitch down. They would have, you know, gone, probably. You know, I had one moment where I, with Leah's permission, told her to get the fuck out of the shop. That was it. That was literally what I said, and that was it. Otherwise, I held my tongue. Because I also, I loved this person. I had 30 years of love for this person, and I knew that is in me. So I knew if I opened my mouth, I was going to say shit I couldn't take back. And I didn't want to do that. So I handled myself in that as best I could. There are some times where I wish I could go back and maybe have a conversation with her, because I didn't. I literally, that was all I said to her and that was it. And I wish I had said, you know, this is fucked up and this is why.
Do you think she's open to that and to hearing that?
I don't know. I think she might have been a little bit then. I don't think it wouldn't have changed the situation, but it would have given me my outlet of saying it. And now, you know, I never say never. I don't know. I'm not closed off to anything, but I'm also not open to things yet, you know? But back to the question was, I ramble. I go off. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It happens all the time. What was your question? I don't even remember.
I don't know.
No, it was a good one though.
Your place. Okay. So you took on that role.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing now in you, can I say this?
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
I think in the last several months, you've realized that was the role that you were trying to take on, and you've realized that that's not your place. And so what I see happening now is you stepping out of that role, and you're still a family. You still love them, and you're still going to have this circle and this connection with them. But I see you taking the time to take care of yourself. And I think you're doing that. You're going through so many really big changes, and it all happened so quickly. And isn't that crazy how that happens?
Very organically and very quickly. And I'll tell you what,
very fast.
This has happened exactly how my mom came through and said it was going to happen in the reading that I had with Jenny back in May. The house stuff has happened exactly how she fucking
This all happened within a week. I came to work one day and she's like, yeah, so I put an offer on a house and I'm selling my house. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, very organic.
I need to meet this Jenny.
You do.
You will.
She'll be there on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, very organic.
So that's what I see for you. I'm not a psychic. I'm not seeing the future.
But you see me, I am interested in kind of you know, your take on things, which I mean, you've kind of told me, but like you've been there every day. You've kind of seen it.
So I think doing another trip soon would be more centered around
me,
you.
Yeah. And that's a
good reason to do it.
That's
a good enough reason.
Isn't it hard though? Like it's uncomfortable to make things about you.
Well, because we're so wired for the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, majority of people I think are people pleasers. You've talked about being that before.
Mm-hmm.
You said the best thing ever.
I didn't know what that meant. Like, I didn't know what that meant to focus on me. It's okay. So am I just like sitting at home, like watching Real Housewives?
Yeah.
Is that that?
And sometimes, you know what? I've watched more reality TV in the past 2 years than I have in my entire life. And sometimes I needed that fucking escape. You know, sometimes focusing on you is just doing that, but it's knowing what you need. And
it doesn't always have to be heavy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people think. And that's why they don't want to go into it, because it's hard. And yes, it is hard and there are heavy moments. But also there can be a lot of laughter and a lot of happiness. You know?
And the quickest way through it is fucking through it.
You've said this to me before.
Yeah.
And I love it, and I can't remember it, and I'm going to butcher it, so I want you to say it. Like, you told me one time in one of our older episodes, like, the difference between selfish and self-care. Mm-hmm. Do you remember this?
I do. Okay. Let me see if I can't butcher it. Being selfish is doing what you want regardless of what others need. And self-care is doing what you need regardless of what others want from you. I did not make that up. I can't remember where I heard it now. I did not make that up.
Damn, Sarah, that is some fucking deep shit.
No, I fucking wish that was mine.
Quote that shit.
Yeah, I wish that. I wish
going
I
on
could remember.
Pinterest.
I can't remember. I think Instagram.
I don't know. I don't remember where it came from, but I was like, that is the most insightful piece of
It's very
advice.
profound.
Like,
it's very profound.
You know, a lot of people have a hard time thinking self-care is selfish. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just how we're wired.
There's a difference, yeah.
And this is going to go back to, we've talked a lot about like feminine energy, not a lot about it.
Yeah.
I've talked with Jason about it because we were listening to a podcast with Aubrey Marcus, and he was talking about how he was disconnected from his feminine side, and your feminine side is that receiving. Mm-hmm. And the masculine sign is about providing and giving. And we are so...
Isn't that so funny that as females, we just...
Give. And it's so hard, I think, especially for females, because I used to be like, oh, but I'm so girly, so I'm totally feminine. And I'm like, oh, I wasn't tapped into my feminine self at all. That's like goddess power. Not goddess power, but like your higher self. Your goddess self. Like, but men have it too. Mm-hmm. And they're so out of touch with it.
Yeah.
And that's your receiving side. So receiving is also about self-care. Self-care is receiving.
Yeah.
Well, we're a masculine-centered society. Like, even as females, we feel like we need to... Being feminine is weak when really...
Hustle culture.
You fucking met women? Like, what? Put the majority of men that you know through what... Not that men don't go through shit. This isn't a man-bashing statement. They go through shit. But... Put a lot of the men that you know through a lot of what a lot of women have dealt with and see what the difference in how they handle that is. And I think when you look at the men in your life, you can see a difference in the way they handle things and the way women handle things.
Yeah.
I want to read more into this like feminine side. I'm going to start doing the Kundalini sessions so I can like wake that inner goddess up.
Yeah.
And be better at
You're
receiving.
On your path. You're on that path. You're doing it.
I just like this.
Yeah. Every time I say Kundalini, I'm like, because it's a snake and it's behind me. I fucking love it. So, any words of wisdom? I mean, you have so many of them, but grief is. I know it's like a topic that I'm not.
It's a very, very layered. Grief is a beast.
And it's something I haven't struggled with on. Yeah. I've lost friends, I've lost family members, but not in that way. So I guess words of wisdom for anybody struggling with grief or going through something similar.
I mean, it's pretty simple, and it's kind of what you hear is just keep going. keep going and keep going for yourself.
When you said this earlier, I think I didn't mean to cut you off, but you said something like, the only way through it is to feel it.
The quickest way through it is through it. You have to go through it. You can't. I think a lot of people start to feel too much and they go straight for meds to numb it. And I'm not against meds. I don't want to be on them. I've been on them before and they did not do for me very well.
Same.
Do very well for me. But I think that's a path that a lot of people choose too quickly. And we're a society of a lot of unprocessed trauma, a lot of unprocessed grief that's maybe not even our own. It comes from generations. It comes from, society that has taken our basic human instincts and suppressed them.
Yeah.
And if you just let yourself feel things, it's really uncomfortable. And I'm not saying don't, get help. Go to therapy. Look into plant medicine. Look into your options. Maybe take a low dose of an antidepressant if it gets to the point where you cannot function, or you get close to that. But you have to feel it, especially when you're dealing with grief. It's not quick. It's a lifelong thing. It doesn't diminish. You just kind of grow with it and you accept it more. And it can be a beautiful process. If you really embrace your grief and your trauma, you can become grateful for it. And it doesn't mean that you wouldn't want it taken away, but it just means it was there and you accept it, and you've got to find a way. It's to make it a purpose. It was a part of you for a reason. So what is that reason? And move forward in it. And my mom's death and the events that happened afterwards, if I didn't have those, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I am incredibly grateful for where I am right now, because I am the most confident, self-assured, strongest version. I am the person that my mom always saw I was, and that I always felt was in there. I didn't know how to be that, but it's there, and I'm standing in it, and I am learning how to stand taller in it every day because I want to.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have that grief, if I didn't, if I hadn't been in therapy learning, I didn't know some of the trauma I had. I had a pretty idyllic childhood on paper. Great parents, nuclear family, but there was definitely trauma there that I have discovered, that I thought was just, well, that was sad. Those were things that happened and that sucks, but you move on. And that shit affects you. It's a part of you. You're still developing when a lot of childhood trauma happens. So it affects it. It's like when a tree grows around something that's been placed up against it, that then becomes part of that tree. You're with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to say those types of things. Like everything happens for a reason. It's very hard to say those when you're in it. It's hard to hear them.
It's hard to hear them.
And you don't want to hear that from anybody.
Too.
Like, don't say that to people. Yeah. But there really is something to being on the other side of it and looking back and saying that. Because what I see is, even though that was a very dark thing that happened, I see it as your mom was a push out of a nest. Mm-hmm. And she's like,
she knew what was going to happen.
You can fly. I've taught you well. Mm-hmm. You can do this. And you've discovered that in the past few years that you really can do this.
Yeah. And if you get into the spiritual world, like to get a little more into it, you lay out your path before you come into it. And she knew what was going to happen. And her purpose might have been to push the people she loved into who they were supposed to be in this life.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's very profound. Yeah.
It's, you kind of, even if that's not it, if that's kind of find the things that get you through. you know? Don't hurt other people. Don't break any crazy laws. But like, you know,
don't do Schedule 1 drugs.
Don't do Schedule 1 drugs. Don't hurt yourself. Just find the things that get you through. Be patient with the people you know going through it. They are changed. And accept them for the messiness and accept yourself for the messiness. It's all fucking messy. Life is fucking messy. It sucks, but it's beautiful.
It sucks, but it's beautiful. Can we put that on a quote?
Life
on
sucks,
a t-shirt.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you are an incredible person and a very beautiful person, and I appreciate you sharing your story with me. And I think your guys' friendship is very special, and I like watching it. So, not to be weird, but I like watching you two. I know that, like, I said it and it came out, and I was like, that sounds
I do think we have a
weird.
very, like, our in-person dynamic is very unique.
It is unique. We laugh a lot. Mm-hmm. Not that that's unique, but we do.
No.
Yeah, how fucking profound you guys.
We're all over the
We laugh. Oh my God. We're so funny.
Shit. Okay, thank you so much for
Thank you for having
sharing.
me on.
I'm excited for everything.
Yeah.
Everything in our future.
Yeah.
Future is unfolding.
Yes. And we will... Oh, well, I guess we should probably do our plugs, right? Follow us. All that jazz. Go.
Yep. Follow us on YouTube. See you on the other side. On Instagram. See you on the other side podcast. And on Twitter.
We have a Twitter?
Oh, you have a Twitter now? Very nice.
Soyotos Podcast.
Soyotos
Soyotos.
podcast.
Soyotos Podcast.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys on the other side.
Bye.